You'll never belong here, my brother Ethan snarled, his voice cutting through the elegant chatter of the ballroom like a blade. Before I could even react, he shoved me hard. My heels slipped against the glossy wooden floor, and my back hit the edge of the stage with a thud before I tumbled to the ground. A sharp gasp rippled through the crowd. A few laughs followed. Not one hand reached out to help. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. Lying there, my dress crumpled, wrist throbbing, I looked up at the shimmering chandeliers and swallowed the sting in my chest. I could have cried. I could have yelled back. But I didn't. Instead, I slowly rose, brushing off invisible dust from my champagne-colored gown, and whispered with a steady smile, "Let's see who owns this hall." Ethan blinked. His fiancée, Lauren, looked around nervously. My mother, too ashamed to admit I was hers, tightened her grip on her wine glass. My father turned his head like he hadn't seen what just happened. The crowd was mostly family, but not mine. Not anymore. Seconds later, the doors flew open. A tall man walked in, confident,
Calm.
commanding, navy blue tailored suit, steel gray eyes. The kind of presence that made the entire room shift. His voice echoed through the silence. "Is there a reason my wife is being thrown off the stage at our property?" The color drained from faces faster than spilled champagne. Aunt Marie dropped her fork. Someone knocked over glass. Lauren looked like she'd just seen a ghost. Ethan's smug smile vanished. Yes, that man was my husband, Noah Kingston, billionaire real estate mogul, silent owner of half the venues in the city, including this hall. We'd kept our marriage private for reasons only we understood.
But tonight?
I was done staying in the shadows. Noah strode toward me without blinking, his jaw clenched, his eyes fixed on Ethan. "Get your hands off my wife, or I'll have this entire place cleared." You're married to her?" Ethan sputtered, eyes bulging. Noah didn't even look at him. Instead, he cupped my cheek gently and said, "Are you all right, Em?" I nodded, though my heart was pounding. Not from the fall, but from the truth finally ripping through this fake family facade like a fire through dry leaves. My full name is Emily Carter Kingston now. But to them, I was always just Em, the orphan cousin, the outsider. My uncle had taken me in when I was 9, after my parents died in a car crash. But I was never treated like family. I was background noise in a world full of polished glass and polite cruelty. And tonight was their big show. Ethan's engagement. A celebration of bloodline. Of legacy. But little did they know the one person they tried to erase was the one who could rewrite the ending. The room stood frozen. Noah turned toward the crowd. "Everyone not related to my wife by loyalty can leave."
Now. Gasps.
Murmurs. Panic. Ethan's father, the same man who once told me I'd never make it beyond waitressing, stumbled over his words. My aunt looked ready to faint. Noah wrapped his arm around my waist and said loudly, "Tonight's event will continue, but the guest list just changed." And just like that, everything flipped. But this was only the beginning. Because while they stood stunned, I was already planning what came next, exposing every secret, every lie, and finally freeing myself from the years of humiliation they wrapped around me like chains. This time, they wouldn't just lose their pride. They'd lose everything they thought they controlled. The ballroom's golden light shimmered over shaken faces as people scattered like scared birds. Some clutched their pearls, others their pride. But no one dared speak above a whisper, except Noah. "I've already alerted security," he said calmly, addressing the now silent crowd. "Anyone who can't treat my wife with respect will be escorted out." You could hear stilettos against marble, hushed murmurs, and the sound of one man choking on his own ego. My brother Ethan. "Emily, seriously? You're married to him?" he stammered, trying to laugh it off, as if this was some elaborate prank. I met his gaze with steady eyes.
Yes.
For over a year. Lauren stepped back like her spine had lost its bones. You've been married for a year? But you live in that tiny apartment. I smirked. Oh, Lauren, that was a choice. You see, you learn a lot about people when they think you have nothing. Ethan's mouth opened, then closed again.
Classic.
Noah didn't bother with them. Instead, he turned to the event manager and said, "Get the real guest list. And bring out the actual catering. Not this frozen garbage they tried to pass off as food." Ethan's face turned crimson. "You're ruining my night." Noah's head tilted. "You ruined it yourself the moment you laid hands on her." I stepped forward, my heels clicking with purpose now. "You wanted a perfect engagement ceremony, Ethan. But perfection doesn't come when you bury family to look good." His jaw twitched. "You were never family." "I know," I whispered. "And that's why it ends here." I turned, facing the remaining guests, those who hadn't fled yet. "You all laughed. You watched me fall. But none of you asked if I was okay. Not once. Because it's easier to side with power than with truth." The silence was heavy. I wasn't just calling them out, I was cutting through the culture that raised me to stay quiet. And suddenly, I wasn't ashamed anymore. Aunt Marie finally blurted out, "But why keep it a secret? Why hide your marriage? Was it revenge?" Noah glanced at me, giving me space to answer. I inhaled.
No.
It was protection. You see, when I first told Ethan I wanted to start my own event business, he laughed, called me a parasite, said I'd end up begging for work. So I disappeared from the family circle. I learned. I built. I got better. Then I looked straight into Ethan's stunned eyes. I didn't need this family's approval. I needed to remember who I was without it.
And I did.
The guests were still, uncomfortable, guilt-ridden. But some looked at me with new eyes. I wasn't the broken girl with second-hand shoes anymore. I wasn't the orphan they kept at the kids' table. I was Emily Kingston. And tonight I was finally done playing small. Noah reached out and took my hand gently. "You ready?" I nodded. We walked back up the stage together. This time, I stood at the center, head high, smile unshaken. Because tonight, I wasn't crashing a celebration. I was the celebration. But beneath all this, the glitter, the gasps, the glares, something deeper had been set in motion. Ethan wouldn't let this go. And neither would I. Because some wounds go deeper than humiliation. And some truths are meant to burn everything down. The ballroom emptied out like a sinking ship. Only a few guests remained, those who weren't loyal to Ethan but curious about me. About Noah. About the truth behind the facade they thought they understood. "Come with me," Noah whispered, his hand warm on the small of my back. He led me through a discreet hallway behind the stage, past velvet curtains and dim sconces, into a side lounge. Just the two of us. For a moment, I could finally breathe. Noah's eyes scanned my face. "Did he hurt you?" I shook my head slowly, although the ache in my spine from the fall said otherwise. "Not physically." He brushed a strand of hair from my face, voice softer now. "You handled that better than I ever could." I swallowed hard. I didn't even plan to say all that. It just spilled. He smiled. It needed to be said. I nodded, but behind my calm front, my chest was storming. Not from embarrassment. From remembering why I'd stayed silent all these years. Why I'd kept our marriage hidden. Why I never spoke up when they pushed me aside, year after year. "I just didn't want to be the gold-digger cousin," I said finally, my voice almost a whisper. Noah's jaw tightened. "You're not. And if I ever hear someone call you that again, you won't," I cut in gently. "Because I'm not hiding anymore." Just then, the door cracked open. A man in a headset peeked in. "Mr. Kingston, the contracts are ready for signature. Do you still want to proceed tonight?" Noah glanced at me. "It's your call." I took a deep breath.
Yes.
"Let's do it." We returned to the ballroom, now cleared of fake smiles and stiff necks. Only a few chairs remained, but at the back of the room stood a table, set with 2 thick folders and a notary. Ethan barged through the side entrance, like a bull. "What the hell is this?" I turned to face him, my heart steady now. "This," I said slowly, is the transfer of ownership of Kingston Events Group. His face crumpled in confusion. You can't. I already did. The notary stood and opened the folder. Per Mr. Kingston's previous agreement, today marks the official date of control shift to Mrs. Emily Kingston. What does that mean? Ethan barked, his voice shaking. Noah stepped beside me. It means Emily owns a controlling stake in every event venue your fiancé wanted to book for your wedding. It means she'll approve or decline your guest list, vendors, even the music. Ethan looked like he'd been slapped. But you're not in the business, he cried. I smiled.
No, Ethan.
I am the business. You just never looked close enough to see it. That's when Lauren stepped forward, finally showing the sharpness behind her otherwise polished silence. Wait, you're the one who owns Lux Vista? She whispered. I nodded. And Silverstone Gardens. And Grand Maple Terrace. Her jaw dropped. Lauren looked between me and Ethan. Do you even realize what you've done? She hissed. You embarrassed the woman who controls everything I dreamed of. Ethan reached out for her, but she backed away. I warned you not to act like a king before you earned your crown, she snapped. The room spun with tension. But I was calm, cold, even, because I'd spent too many years biting my tongue while this family dressed up their cruelty as tradition, as protection. But it was always control. Tonight, that control was gone. Still, I knew Ethan wouldn't give up that easily.
And neither would I.
Because revenge isn't just about getting even. It's about becoming untouchable. Ethan stood there, rooted like a tree in a storm, jaw clenched, eyes bloodshot, shoulders trembling. But his voice, oh, that voice, tried to claw its way back into dominance. You think this makes you powerful? He spat. Owning venues? Getting back at me? You're still nothing without the Carter name. I tilted my head, locking eyes with him. That name never protected me. It only chained me. Noah stepped forward, calm but commanding. You're in no position to speak, Ethan. You humiliated your sister at her venue, in front of our guests. That alone could bankrupt your reputation. Ethan's father, Uncle Gerald, finally stepped in, voice gruff. Let's all calm down. No. I cut him off. My voice was sharp, unshaking. You had every chance to stop him. You watched, just like you always did. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, his silence louder than any apology. I'm done letting this family rewrite my story, I continued. You all called me weak, a stray, a burden. But it's always been projection. I was your scapegoat. Lauren walked slowly to the center of the room, her heels echoing with purpose now. Ethan, she said, arms folded, you just threw away the entire Kingston portfolio over your pride. That venue list? Our wedding vision? Our entire brand. His face contorted. Lauren, come on. She manipulated us.
No.
You underestimated her. There's a difference. Lauren looked at me. And, to be honest, I admire the move. I blinked. That was unexpected. She smiled, small and cold. Doesn't mean I like you. But at least you didn't pretend to be someone you're not. Then she turned to Ethan. Unlike you. She walked out without another word. No screaming. No crying. Just the sharp finality of heels fading into distance. Noah's hand found mine. Let's go. But I didn't move. Instead, I faced the last remaining guests, those who still sat like statues. You know what's funny? I said softly. All these years, I thought I needed to be accepted. To belong.
To be invited in.
But I never needed your seat at the table. I was building my own. Then I nodded toward the exit. You're free to leave. I'm done performing for people who never saw me. One by one, they filed out. Noah stayed silent beside me until we were alone again. Are you sure you're okay? He finally asked. I turned to him, heart slower now, breath steady. I'm more than okay. I'm free. But just as we began to walk away, a voice rang out. You don't know what you've done. Ethan. Still there. Alone. Eyes dark. Voice hollow. You just burned the only bridge you had, he growled. You think this money, this power, will protect you? When it all falls apart, and it will, you'll come crawling back. I turned around, slowly. Ethan, I said, voice level, I'm not afraid of losing anything anymore. Because everything I have now, I built without you. And I meant every word. Because there's nothing more dangerous than the girl you thought you broke, standing taller than ever before. But this wasn't over. I knew Ethan. He wouldn't vanish quietly. And neither would the skeletons still buried under this family's perfect little legacy. 2 weeks passed. You'd think the dust would have settled. That Ethan would have crawled back into whatever hole he used to hide from responsibility. But people like him, they don't let go. They plot. I should have expected the email. Subject line, Kingston Group audit findings urgent. It came from an anonymous address. But the attachments were real. Financial records. Altered invoices. Event contracts forged under my name, but traced back to Ethan. He was trying to frame me. To make it look like I'd been laundering money through the Kingston venues. He wanted to destroy everything I'd built. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, as Noah walked in. He saw my face and stopped. Emily. I turned the laptop toward him. He's trying to take me down. Noah's eyes darkened as he scanned the documents. This is federal. I nodded. He thinks if he can't ruin my name in the family, he'll do it in court. We acted fast. By morning, we had our legal team combing through every digital trail, every signature. Every venue we owned began an internal audit. And that's when we uncovered something even darker. Ethan hadn't just tried to frame me. He had been stealing for years.
Bribes.
Kickbacks. Fake vendors paid out of real budgets. He used family-owned businesses as a front, pocketing profits while blaming declining margins. And worst? Uncle Gerald knew. He'd signed off on everything. It was a storm waiting to crash. And now we had the lightning. Noah stood in front of our board of directors that Friday, an emergency meeting Ethan had no idea was happening. I stood beside him, calm in a navy dress suit, the very image of the woman Ethan once shoved off a stage. We didn't want to make this public, Noah began, but we're obligated to protect our company. Then I took over. For years, Ethan Carter and Gerald Carter misused company assets, laundered funds through false accounts, and attempted to destroy shareholder trust, all while presenting themselves as rightful heirs to a legacy they've been poisoning. Silence. The room was cold, but my voice was ice. I was quiet for too long. I let them speak over me, laugh at me, shove me off literal and metaphorical stages. Not anymore. I dropped the file on the table. These are the signed statements. From auditors. From vendors. From whistleblowers. The vote was unanimous. Ethan and Gerald were removed from every board, every position, every company we had ties to. Later that night, my phone lit up. Ethan, you think you won? I didn't reply. Some endings don't need conversations. They need silence. Instead, I stepped onto the balcony with Noah, the city glowing below. You all right? He asked quietly. I exhaled. For the first time in years, yes. He slid his arm around me. You didn't just survive them. You outgrew them.
And he was right.
Because revenge hadn't been about making them fall. It was about rising so high, they could no longer reach me. And now, I wasn't just the girl they shoved off the stage. I owned the whole damn building.